that I am GobboPoP. I have been doing chainmail for a little over 2.5 years now. I predominantly do jewelry chainmail because it is the prettiest form, in my opinion. I don't care much for the armor; it takes too long. Um, but so yeah, about 2.5 years, and I am self-taught. I have learned via YouTube videos and pictures and things like that. So I'm going to try and show you what I learned and how I kind of went through the process of it and everything like that. That way, if you're interested in learning, you're able to kind of follow suit of what I did. Um, some of the big things that one of the big things that I know is kind of scary is the different types of weaves that people go. The one I always suggest to learn for first because it is actually the easiest one to learn and it is kind of the structure of all chainmail. It's basically what you it gives you an idea of how to kind of work everything, and that is the European 4-in-1, which can be used in different aspects, and you can make it as big as small. A lot of the armor that you see on like TV or in general is European 401. So, but you can add multiple different rows and different colors and different sizes. Do I have another one? I don't think I do. No. But something that does show 4-in-1, 4-1. It is basically one ring with 4 rings inside of it. So if you take the first section, there is one ring here in the middle. Making it that closer. There is one ring that's kind of in the middle of it's the spine of this corner. See if I can't show it better. I'm having a difficulty doing that. All right. So you see how there's a spine basically of this pattern? That is the one ring, and each ring has at least 4 other rings inside of it. Um, and it can go up from there. It can go where it has one ring with 6 rings in it, or 2 rings with 8, and that's that one's called King's Mail, and that's where you kind of just double it up. For example, this is a King's Mail, Byzantine, where it's got double rings for the pattern. Come on, focus, do the thing. I gotta be a fucking go. So it can go up from there, and it isn't. It is fairly simple to learn, which I will teach you closer to the end after I talk about it. Some of the tools you will need, I only have one of each right now because I didn't want to go and grab all of them, is the ones that I tend to use because I work a bit smaller with some smaller type uh, rings. So like the blue 4-in-1 here that you see, I work with the most difficult material to do chainmail with is tungsten. Um, because it is such a thick material. Even when it's in a smaller ring size, it is still rather difficult to work with. It requires a lot of hand strength to open and close those rings. Some of the easiest rings to work with is probably niobium and aluminum. Those are 2 of the easiest ones to work with, and they make pretty jewelry and stuff like that with those. Then there's stainless steel, which kind of sits up with tungsten. It can get kind of hard on the hands. And then you've got like the golds and the silvers of actual gold and silver. And those can vary depending on the sizes of the difficulty of working with them. But like for um so you use copper, correct? Yeah. Copper can be worked with. It's actually, depending on what you're using, can be fairly easy to work with. Let's see if I call it. It is actually fairly easy to work with. I've used it a couple of times to make some Byzantine um, stuff before, but like you can use your finger with enough strength to close those rings. So most tools, pretty much any tools, are good to work with copper. But for like tungsten and stainless steel, I would suggest using a tool similar, depending on the side, but similar to this tool. This tool has a very wide place. It's very wide and has a good surface for you to grab material with. Um, it also, if you've got the two of them, it makes it move like butter. It's so easy to open close things. It still takes some pressure on your hands to open and close, but it kind of reduces the strength that you need. And you can get these ones from the Ring Lord, which is where I've kind of got most of my tools from. Another one that's good to work with, like stainless steels or heavier gauge rings of niobium and stainless steel, are going to be these Webers. Again, they've got a wider surface for the for grabbing. I like to use these when I'm working on rings that are kind of thick, even though they're aluminum. They're still kind of thicker and heavier gauge. Um, so I tend to use these mixed with the other pliers that I use. Um, the other pliers are these little Xerons. These ones are bent nose pliers. All of the pliers that you should be using for chainmail should not have teeth as well. If you have teeth, you're going to leave imprints of it on the metal and you're going to scratch it up and everything. So you want things that are smooth and have no teeth on the inside. But these bent nose pliers, I have a long nose plier and a short nose plier that I use for a lot of my smaller jewelry, like like this Byzantine here. Where is the camera? There it is. So you can use almost any tool. Um, so actually with that one, there is a material which I can't remember quite the name of right now, but you can get it off of Amazon and it's like a liquid rubber. You can put your tools, you can dip your tools into it and it will put rubber around the edging or around the surface of your tool. And it's easy to remove so it doesn't leave residue or anything like that. And it basically, you can do exactly what you asked, was that you can dip your pliers that do have teeth on them, you can dip them into that and it should be able to protect your chainmail from it. It also means that when you're working with chainmail, it won't slip as much. That's a problem I have a lot of times, is that when I'm working with a chain, my pliers, when I go to bend them into place and close them, sometimes my plier will pop off and it will slip and either hit me or cause the ring to fly off somewhere, which is always fun when you're in the middle of working with really small fucking rings. Um, but like I had mentioned before when I was showing off these, the Ring Lord is not necessarily plasti dip. It's I can look it up really quick for you guys. Give me one. It is a kind of we used something similar to it when I was in welding. Um, hello. Um, plier. Give me 1 second. It is called Tool Magic Rubber Coating. It is a little container that it holds. It's like probably about 4 ounces or something along the lines of like this container. And you would open it as simple, and then you would just dip your tools in, and it will rubberize the coating around the tool, and it'll make it easier to work with the pliers. So the Ring Lord is a place that you can get chains and rings from, or well, rings and tools. I don't always highly suggest them. They're cheap, and it's great to get certain rings from them. But with the recent management shift, the rings have gotten kind of crappy. So if you want cheap practice rings, then I suggest getting Ring Lord because they are like again fairly cheap, and as long as you don't mind that some of them aren't going to be, there's a good chunk of them that won't probably be perfect, and it's going to make it a little harder to work with. But the places that I do highly suggest, there are two places, and they're called Metal Designs and Chainmaille Joe. They have a vast collection of different colors, different sizes. If one place doesn't have one size, the other place does, or vice versa with colors. Um, there is there isn't much for um there isn't much going for the different types of rings you can get. So like there is a guy I know. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but his he makes, I know his first name is like Jason. I think I have something of his somewhere. Um these are stainless steel rings up from him. But his name is Jason. I can't remember quite his website at the moment. But he makes all kinds of different rings for stainless steel, niobium. Um, there are other places that do so, like the gold and silver and stuff like that. And I believe like places like that is We've Got Mail, and they're a decent they're decent for rings, but they are expensive. So like at Chainmaille Joe, you can get a pack of like 500 532nd rings for about $5 to $6, whereas if you go to Weaver's Got Mail, it's like $13 for a pack of like 300. So they are a bit more pricey, but they do have really good quality stuff and really nice colors when it comes to certain things. I would throw down some money for some of the colors they have because it comes out to be almost the exact color I'm looking for. Um, some if you are interested in making your own rings, Chainmaille Joe and some other places, like even Amazon, you can get spools of wire from like Amazon or Chainmaille Joe or wherever of the color you want of aluminum, or if you're really rambunctious and you want to try and do steel and other stuff, you can. I don't highly. This is all budded. I
Voice,
don't necessarily.
your
Um,
speaker. I muted my chat part. Okay.
it is all budded. The riveted is a bit of it has extra steps that can be a little bit more annoying for players. Because it does kind of require that you know how to forge a little bit to, I mean, you can get them mass produced from some places, but personally, it's better if you can get them, if you forge them and everything, because then you know that they're going to be how you would like them in certain aspects, because some of them don't sell them in the ring sizes that you would need. But making your own rings, you can go to Amazon and you can get any kind of spool of wire. I don't suggest galvanized wire because contact to the skin is toxic. But you can get some wire. You'd need a drill, and then you need a dowel. You can get like a little starter kit, I think, on Amazon for about $30. It's a little starter kit with different size dowels to make rings, and it's basically you just put you would take the wire and you'd put it in the drill with the dowel, and you just slowly start spinning it, and it will, as you do, you tightly hold on to the wire, and it creates a spool, which I have one right here from when I was working on making on my own, if I can grab it. This one was messed up, but you can make your own spool of wire by using a drill. And then what you do to cut it is you can get cutters from any tool site. Um,
hoping that made sense.
So from Chainmaille Joe and we've in places like Chainmaille Joe, We've Got Mail, and Metal Designs, I have found that the anodized aluminum rings, the colored rings, are actually much better when it comes to staying on, even if it has insect repellent. I have worn insect repellent for this chain that I'm currently wearing. I have worn this for almost 2.5 years and barely have ever taken it off. And it is shown almost no wear and tear to it when it comes to the colors rubbing off. So it really kind of just depends on where you get the rings from and how they go along with their process of anodizing the rings, because some solutions aren't as strong, or some solutions don't like to stay on certain types of metal, so it might not always be aluminum that they're working on. But when you make your own spool, or like your own coil of rings here, the way you cut them is you can get a pair of pliers. You can get a pair of pliers that are V-cut. I have a chain that will show you. This is a chain that I had made prior. It was one of my very first chains that I made. You can, let's see. You can get something that V-cuts it, which leaves this like groove in the ring. I don't know if it can show up on camera. Come on, focus. And it's probably not going to show up on camera really well. But it leaves this kind of groove in the chain, and that makes it really difficult for you to get a really good solid closure. And so you can use that, or you can find a specific wire cutting like chainmail plier from like some of the chainmail sites that I had suggested. Or you can get a jeweler saw. A jeweler saw is really highly suggested a lot of times because it makes really clean cuts. And that's super easy, as you would just put it right up on the edge of where you had cut it, and you just slowly go through and just saw at it, and it will cut the rings off and make really seamless little spots to go through. Another thing I've seen people do, like a lot of these big manufacturers use bandsaws with a really thin blade that cuts through, and those are called saw cut rings. Those are pretty good too. You just have the risk of occasionally you'll have where they'll be cutting the coil and the blade will jump and cut into something, or cut a little too much, or something like that. A Dremel with a cutting wheel could work if you have a proper setup, because I don't really suggest you holding it and then going through and cutting it, because then you risk, if the cutting wheel gets snagged, it will jerk. And I don't suggest holding it or keeping it kind of close, because when you do that, you have the risk of it getting in your throat, on your clothes. And if it gets in your clothes, it'll grab it and pull it, and it's just not a fun time. I also suggest that you don't have, when you're working with chainmail, especially if, like a vice press, that would work perfectly. If you have like a vice press and you're using it, that would work really great. There is a company called Pepe who make a chainmail set for it, and it has this little cutter, and it sits onto a piece of metal, and you can just slowly pull it along this piece of metal, and it makes really straight, clean cut. But the Pepe kit for it is like $170. Occasionally, if you can find it on sale, then it's like a really big deal. And then it's like $90 or something like that. But it's still expensive to get that one little specific thing to go. So I've lost my train of thought. Yes. Yeah, jewelry tools are not cheap. That's why I kind of suggested like a jeweler saw, because a jeweler saw you can get for about $10-15. Like, I have a cheap one, and it came with a little kit full of different size blades and stuff like that for the saw, and it's pretty good. It's gotten me through a couple of things. I kind of stopped making my own rings because eventually it started hurting my hands, because I'm not smart and I wasn't wearing gloves, where you should wear gloves when you're doing it, because it would be safer on your hands. Um, but yeah, some of the beginner weaves that you can learn. Yes, the blades are cheap too, and yeah, you probably should get like a grip, any kind of vice grip or something. Um, I think that getting a vice grip and then putting like two pieces of like leather or something soft on both sides and then holding the chain in between would work really, really well because it keeps the chains kind of solidly in there, but you're not putting scuff marks on the chain and stuff like that from the metal grinding on metal. Um, some of the beginner weaves that I kind of suggest people to learn all the time, like I said earlier, 4-in-1 is absolutely something that I like. That is guaranteed you need to learn because it is kind of the structure of most chainmail is 4-in-1. Especially if you're going to learn armor, you want to learn 4-in-1. Another one that I always suggest is one of the weaves that I learned when I first started, and that is Byzantine. Byzantine is a really great weave. It is one of my favorite weaves. It is super fun. I've always enjoyed it. A lot of the chains I make nowadays tend to be Byzantine. Um, I also suggest like learning a little bit about like a helm or not helm, barrel weave. Barrel weave is cute. It is like these little balls inside the chain, and it is a very very nice little chain to work with. Um, that would be actually a really good little kit to get. That is pretty on point of what you would want to get. um, so uh, barrel weave is yeah, you can get them in different sizes, but it can get expensive. Or if you know people who can make them, that would be a really cool way of getting stuff done too. I have my uncle has made me a couple things for my chainmail journey because he likes working with wood and he has a lot of tools to do so. So he has made me a lot of stuff to help me, and it's been a great relief not to have to spend X amount of dollars on something that I might not use again. However, I've used almost everything I own except for I don't make my own rings anymore, so I don't necessarily need to do that anymore. But my jeweler saw still comes in handy for certain things. So, European 4-in-1, a barrel weave, Byzantine is kind of the basics of a beginner weave, is kind of what you want to learn for that. I also suggest learning because it can be kind of easy, especially so the beginning part of it can be a little rough, but once you get the hang of it, it is just a solid motion of just going through and making it. But it's called a spiral chain, specifically a double spiral. It's super easy and it's beginner friendly. You get the hang of it pretty quick. This one is my specific chain for my clan, known as Clan of the Dragons. So it is a spiral chain with a little dragon pendant on the bottom of it, and it's in red and blue, which was funny to me because I haven't done riveted mail just yet. I want to because it is something that's been in my books for something I want to do for ANS, but like I said before, I am also someone who really enjoys forging, and I specifically would like to forge my own rings. Because I'm not going to spend $400 on X amount of rings for a project that may not look good. I'm a bit of a perfectionist sometimes. Um, but so you got some basic weaves that you can learn. And then once you learn those basic weaves, you kind of can add up to them. Like I showed you before, you can make it into like a King's Byzantine, which is just the doubling up on the rings. You can make a oh, this is a beginner and I forgot. Persian, full Persian. This is a fairly easy beginner one. It follows the basic steps, like the first couple of steps of Byzantine, and then they take a few steps of their own, but it again is another repetitive, really easy one to learn. Just takes a second to learn the beginning of it. Um, Once you learn the steps of all of them, you can start doing things like you can make this scale You can take scales and make them into armor and stuff like that. That's easy. That's just knowing how to do 4-in-1 and then putting them in the rings. Yeah, the riveted mail is definitely not a beginner friendly process. That is a much more advanced kind of form of chainmail to do. But as you go through, you can also learn to make like this one. This is called JPL3, which is a really this is an intermediate chain. It's annoying to learn to begin with. The beginning of it is extremely hard to learn. So a lot of people like to find someone who knows how to do them and then make like the beginner part of it so that they can just kind of carry on from there because it's not fun to do by yourself sometimes. Um and then you can do things like the half Persian, which are this is my wallet chain. So my wallet maybe in view, maybe. This is a really nice flat uh, weave. So a lot of the weaves are rounded, or you can get things that are flat, like the 4-in-1, which inevitably can be actually turned into slightly rounded weaves. It is called a box weave, and it kind of just turns into like a square, and it's really nice. But I like half Persian because it makes this nice little like cross section when you work with it, and it looks very pretty. um, no one's taking my wallet from me with this. The key ring actually is more of a heavy duty key ring. I made sure it was a nicely graded stainless steel ring that I could put on my wallet. I think the actual weaker part of my wallet is probably the leather itself when it comes to that. But no one is taking my wallet from me. That was kind of the point. um, so I think I've covered, for the most part, what I needed to cover. So I suppose I should go into now showing you how to make 4-in-1 and Byzantine. We'll start with 4-in-1 because, like I said, that's the most important one for me. Grab these. And do it in green because we're gonna hope the green shows up on camera a little better. From the fire stairs. So what you'll do is you'll take the one ring and move that off camera a little bit. Drop this down. Okay. See if that works. Have fun with the guineas. So you'll take one ring, like so, and you're going to close it. And you're going to do that 3 more times. You're going to have 4 closed rings. All right. Go through and you close all 4 of them. And then you're going to take a 5th ring and you're going to open it. And that basically is the start of the 4-in-1. That's one ring with 4 rings on it. One ring to rule them all. Yes, one ring to rule them all. So that's 4 closed rings right there. Now we're gonna take one of the other rings and we're gonna open it up just like so. That way it's open. It has a little space where we can put the ring. Now you're gonna take all 4. You're gonna slide it on to the open ring and you're gonna close that. If I can get my closure to look good. It's just a presentation. I'm not gonna be so serious about it. So now you've got 4 rings on one ring. What you're going to do is you're going to slide them off so they're separated, like so, where it's 2, 1, 2. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this right. Maybe I can move the camera. Do this. That way that works a little better for me. Sure. So it's going to be 2, 1, 2. And you're going to kind of slide them down like the way they are right now. What you're going to do is once you do that, you can take it. You see how you have these two rings right here? What you do is you're going to take another ring. You're going to close two rings. And then you're going to open a third one. Is that one already closed? Oh, I love myself. And you're going to take a third ring and you're going to open it up. So you'll take the two closed rings that you just put on. And you're going to put them on like that. And then you're going to take the open ring and you're going to slide it under. Nope, not like that. You can go in, under, out, over. And that begins this little process of a 4-in-1. You close that up. And it's okay if the ring likes to fall so that it makes things look a little wonky. You just got to kind of fiddle with it and open it back up. Just like that. And the way you want to figure out how to put these rings on is you're going to look at the spine and you're going to make sure that if the rings are laying up like they are here, you're going to go down, under, over. So you're going to go down and then through the second ring. Down the first, through this, up through the second. If it's facing this way where the rings are facing down, then you're going to do the opposite. You're going to go over, under. You make the rings right. You go under, through, and over. So up, through, down, through. And you can continue that process for as long as you want. To add on to it, it's the same process, except you're just going to go the opposite way. And you're just going to put one ring with two, slide it through, and then just kind of go through the process. I can show that really quick. That way you understand kind of what I'm saying. So we'll have one ring open. Damn, I didn't grab any new ones that are closed. Two that are closed. Then you're going to grab your open one. You're going to put those two on. And then when you're sitting here and you're holding this chain or this piece, you're going to kind of set it up. The rings aren't being so fidgety. And you see how now these two are sitting right here? You're just going to slide right through. Not like that, apparently. What the hell? I guess the other way. Is it the other way? No. The rings are being weird. I was right, wasn't I? Yeah. Okay. And you're just going to slide them through to make sure the spine looks like the rest of them. And then you'll create this little pattern that, come on, stop it. Stop it. Behave. That's why you're being weird. There we go. So now you have this little piece that has a new section, and then you can continue down with that, except for this one, it's just one extra, one open, one close. And then you just kind of go down from there. Super easy pattern to learn. And YouTube has tons of videos on how to do them. The next one I will be showing is how to do a Byzantine. Byzantine is, like I said before, one of my favorite weaves. We're going to do it in silver because I can. Why did that come out as a chunk? Sometimes your rings will come out in chunks, and it can be rather annoying and suck when you have to pull them apart and everything like that. Cool. We have an open ring already. So I'm going to have open, and we're going to do some closed. Take me a second to remember the process because I know it, but my brain doesn't. Is it closed? Is it closed? Awesome. So you're going to do 2, 2, which is 2 rings and 2 rings. So you're going to need 2 opened, 2 closed to start. just kind of like that. So you'll have two rings on two. Then what you're gonna do, chunky chain for chunky blows. Hell yeah. That's what I live by. You're gonna take another two rings, you're gonna open them, and you're gonna put them right on to that 2, 2. So it should be 3 2x2s. So it goes 2, 2, 2. And then you're gonna do that, open. And then what you're gonna do, once you have the new rings on, you're gonna pull that one back up. You're gonna hold this bottom rings, these two down here. You're gonna take these two at the top and slide them down towards the bottom two, but you're gonna hold them at an angle so that they sit at like a perpendicular to each other like this. And then like that did, it's going to open up this little top section. And what you're going to do is you're going to take another ring. Should have opened some rings beforehand. It says a closed. This is a closed. I'm not going to do that. Closed. Okay. You're going to take an open ring. I'm going to slide it. You're actually supposed to slide it right there. Yeah. Okay. You're going to slide it right through those two perpendicular rings that you had. So, hey, this isn't really the greatest size to do it, but it is the best for me to explain how to do it. So, like I said, take these two rings at the bottom and you hold on to them. Something, real quick actually, something I like to do when I'm working with chains is I'll take a clip or like a bread tie or something like that, and I will put those rings on there. That way I know where the starter point is, and it kind of makes it easier for me to hold the rings. So you take those two bottom rings, hold them, bend these down so they're just above, kind of at a top, on the top of them, like so. And then you just slide these two open at these tops. I hate that this is going blurry on you guys. Okay. And then you slide it through these two. And it should create this kind of like diamond section. And from there, it's pretty much the same exact process where you just do two more little things. So from this point where we have the split open, that's the middle piece that we just put in. You add two, and then you add another two, and you will bend these two back to create this little speck. Open up and add another ring. I don't have any right there. So that you create these sections of chainmail. Kind of hope that the multicolor one helps you guys understand a little bit better, because I apparently suck at explaining this on camera. In person, it's a lot easier for me to do. But, I mean, thank you. So that's kind of the basics of a Byzantine and a foreign one. You can they're really easy to start. They're really easy to start doing. In the beginning, they kind of are a little intimidating trying to understand what to do. But from there, it's just repetitive. Once you get it, you just keep repeating what you were doing, and over time, you'll have a chain. And it's very, very mindless to me sometimes. I will just sit here and I will do chainmail and talk and do whatever. I'll watch a show while I'm doing chainmail and get things done really quickly. But a thing like an electrician's helper hand thing. Those platforms with all the claims be helpful. I don't know actually, 'cause I don't think I've ever seen one of those. I don't know much about electricians, so I'm not entirely sure if that would be helpful or not. think I found some experimentation can happen. Oh yeah, chainmail is a really awesome thing. I mentioned earlier, I think before this started, was that chainmail is very versatile, so that you can experiment and do a lot of things. There was a guy, he stopped. I don't know if that would be helpful within a with like Byzantine, but that most certainly would be really nice for a situation for like the 4-in-1 when you're making sheets of it, because you could put a ring through the top of it. Um, you can put like a rod through the top of the rings to create a chain. So like if you were to take a rod and put it through the top of all these chains, they'll hang down and you can just add on from there. I actually think I have a piece that I was working on before that might have exactly what I'm talking about. I'll find it. So, yeah, you can put a rod to these top rings right here, and it'll hang these down so that you can work with it if it's hung down. Um, it'll just kind of hang down, and it's easier. Some people find this type of way of doing it where it hangs a lot easier for them to do it. I personally don't. I hate it. It hurts my brain. Um, but it can work for some people. And I think that would be really great for having something like that where you have like a thin wire or rod holding the chain and you can just do the chains hanging. Um, that way you have less to focus on holding. And it's preference. Um, I think I found the pliers that I used before, maybe. Let's see. Yeah. So like these are the pliers I used to use, these V-cut, and they leave one side kind of flat and then the other one kind of gets cut in an angle. And so it leaves this little section of like a gap in the ring. And it doesn't make a full closure, and sometimes it's kind of scratchy and it will kind of tear up garb if it kind of has the chance to grab on. Or it just gets in the way of people's hair. That sucks too when chainmail likes to grab hair. It'll grab any hair, not just your like hair on the top of your head. It'll grab your beard, it'll grab the hair on your arms, your neck, shoulder, wherever it is. And it will pull and it will hurt so much. But I think that's kind of everything I needed to show. I think that's about it. Size rings, I actually didn't mention that. Thank you for reminding me. The size of rings that I actually do suggest that you work with are 1/4 rings, which this chain that I made are rings made of 1/4 inch. So if you go to like any of the chainmail sites that I mentioned, they'll have the ring sizes where it basically will say like 18 gauge SWG 1/4 AR or something like that. And that's basically what you're looking for is 1/4 size. And that's a really good beginner one. Um, I suggest it for like learning the basics of the European 4-in-1, but for Byzantine, it's super loose. So what that means is that like earlier when I was showing it off and it kind of just kept falling to the sides and then just kind of unraveling, that's loose. It's not tight enough to create the pattern, but those are really good at making the King's Mail ones where it's doubled on each other. So that's something to think about as well. And finishing edges on 4-in-1 projects so you don't have dangling rings. Ooh. So that is a so that's basically taking half Persian 3-in-1, which is what you saw in my wallet. It's taking something along the lines of this and kind of doing the same thing on the edges of the European 4-in-1. And it creates this like flat, straight edge on the piece. The other thing, the suggestion I have on that mostly is going to YouTube and looking on how to edge a lot of projects, because people have different ways of edging, and every different ways of I'm going to repeat that statement, that people have different ways of edging certain pieces of chainmail. And every way is different, and every way is more complex or more easy depending on how you want to go about it. So, yeah, just kind of going to YouTube and looking up a couple of videos on how to do it and finding what you kind of like there. It is really an experimental process. You learn from mistakes, you learn from trial and error, and you just kind of experiment and create your own weaves. Like, there are so many people that made so many different types of weaves. I've seen people who made straight up have made patterns for dragons. I made a chainmail dragon at one point and entered it into ANS. There are people who have made teddy bears and foxes and um, cat ears and dragon ears and stuff like that. There's all kinds of things that you can make. I've seen people who make take the dragon scales, the chainmail scales, and they make full on dragon tails. They're heavy as hell, but they'll have a tail that you can wear and it moves around and stuff like that. It's really cool. You can tell your younger self, do not do this. What would this be? Do not make your own rings when you first start making chainmail. God, no. That's what I would have told myself in the beginning. I would have told myself not to make rings, because it was a nightmare to do. And I hated it. I think the other thing I probably would have told myself not to do when I first started chainmail was probably start small. Don't go ambitious and try and make really big things. Because when you make really big things, it can freak you out pretty bad. Please don't make a shirt starting out. Yep. Jewelry is a really good way of learning and starting off. Yeah, it can come undone really quickly. If you make your own rings, I do highly suggest that you when you go to cut it off of the spool, please, for the love of God, point it away from you. Because when you clip it, it will spring. So it sometimes will shoot off of the drill in your general direction. I have one too many times have clipped the wire of my project that I was working with and making the rings. I have clipped the wire and it shot out and hit me in the face. So I do highly suggest that you wear safety glasses and gloves, because it can get hot, it can hurt your hands, and projectiles are